Joining us now to talk about what's happening in Nebraska and West Virginia today as the primaries are underway there. A member of the Democratic Party and a state senator in New York until December 2020, David Carlucci was one of the youngest elected to the state Senate back in 2010 at just 29 years old. David, welcome in. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So is this the big announcement where you change parties and go Republican?
Yeah, well, man, I'm confused, that's for sure. There's so many things that I can agree with and disagree with both parties. So
and I want to get your thoughts on the midterms when we get to that in just a second. But let's first start and talk about what's happening in Nebraska and West Virginia, what to watch for today. Big Republican primary is happening there. The Nebraska governor this is a heavily contested situation in West Virginia and Nebraska with everything going on there. Contested in Nebraska with the governor. What's going on there?
Yeah, so this is the scorcher's campaign going on. You've got one candidate that's endorsed by the sitting Republican governor. You have another candidate that's endorsed by former President Trump. And this is one where we see really everything is relying on President Trump. You have this candidate, Mooney, who is really just putting everything that he can behind the Trump campaign. So it's really interesting what's going on. You have Governor Ricketts, who is supporting his candidate, which is going against Trump's candidate, which is really, really interesting.
And where do the polling numbers, lay right now as far as those two candidates go? I mean, I saw that the Trump endorsed guy has got a little scandal behind him.
That's right. Yeah, Charles Herbster. He has been accused. He's a big, businessman, an agricultural business that he has. Mm-hmm. He's been accused of sexual misconduct. He probably he hasn't raised as much money as his opponent, who's endorsed by Governor Ricketts, who is the sitting governor, and has himself, the sitting governor, has raised over $1 million to defend his candidate.
Yeah, who do you think's going to win the primary there?
That I cannot tell.
Pretty tight race.
Really interesting. It's a tight race, and that's why we're watching it so closely, because this is one where we're looking at the tea leaves. This is one that's going to show Donald Trump's strength in the Republican primaries. In Nebraska, for example, they have about 600,000 registered Republicans in the state. In the last 2 months, over 8,500 new Republicans have registered to vote in this primary. Mm-hmm. And we believe many of those 8,500 new registrants are actual Democrats that know that in Nebraska, this is the reddest state in the country.
Right.
And so Democrats don't have much of a chance, but they want to get involved and really involved in the Republican primary to try to mitigate, which candidate is elected. So it's a really fascinating thing. But the real thing to watch here is that if Trump's candidate wins, he's going against really the establishment in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And if he pulls it off, it's going to be a bona fide for Trump. If he loses, it's going to be a problem for Trump in terms of his diminishing strength in these Republican primaries.
All right, let's talk about the representative primary happening now. There's a couple of candidates to replace the former U.S. representative there, Jeff Fortenberry. And one of the Republicans convicted in March on charges he lied to federal authorities about illegal campaign contributions he received from a Nigerian billionaire. What's going on in Nebraska with all these scandals?
Well, this is, so you have Fortenberry, who actually resigned from office and now is trying to reclaim his seat. Here you have Donald Trump defending him, supporting him. And it's interesting because here you have both candidates that have really been, both of Trump's candidates have been diminished, have had problems, mm-hmm. One with sexual assault, one here with the campaign finance violations. And Trump is supporting them. So it's kind of against the grain. He's defending them, which is kind of interesting in politics today. You don't usually see that. And here we have, again, Donald Trump going all in with Fortenberry, a guy that left office. And, in New York, for example, where I am, you have people that are indicted or are, there's an alleged crime and they leave office. Here we have this guy left office. Now he's going to run again. And the thing to watch that is if the Republicans take the House, Fortenberry will probably be fine. If the Democrats take the House and Fortenberry wins, he'd probably be censured, and there'd probably be some problems for him.
Right.
So this is really interesting, another interesting race to watch.
All right, let's switch over to West Virginia really quick here. Joe Manchin under a lot of heat from the Democrats, obviously, because he doesn't play ball as well as they'd like him to all the time. So what's going on with him, and also the Republican primary? Got a bit of a face-off happening there.
This is a really interesting. In West Virginia is one of the states that has lost a member of Congress because of the redistricting process. And West Virginia has lost in population, so they lose a member of Congress. And what's really interesting is the lines have been redrawn, and now you have two Republican incumbent Congress members that are facing off against each other.
Because of the lines being drawn, they've been moved to different areas. Now they're up against each other. That's
exactly right. So you have two sitting members of Congress that now have to run against each other, and this is a vicious fight. I mean, this is one of the more vicious fights in the United States right now. You have these two Republican members of Congress. One supported the federal infrastructure bill, claiming that West Virginia desperately needed the money. They've had real problems with infrastructure in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Then you have the Trump-endorsed Republican incumbent who voted against the infrastructure bill. This is really interesting. The Trump-endorsed candidate is being called a carpetbagger because he only moved to West Virginia about 10 years ago, whereas the anti-Trump, let's call him, endorsed by Manchin and other prominent West Virginia Republicans and Democrats, he's been there 7 generations, his family.
Yeah.
So, this is Representative McKinley, deep roots in the community.
Okay.
This one particularly will really we'll see how strong Trump is. Because
all right, David, I'm up against the clock. I do want to get your thoughts on midterms here. Red wave, do you see a big switch happening in the Senate and the House this year?
Oh, it's going to be very tough for Democrats, unfortunately. When you have a president at the top and the leadership in the Congress, everything gets blamed on them. So I think this is going to be very difficult for Democrats. They've really got to knock on doors and shake as many hands as possible and get down with the people, because on the media airwaves and all that, they're going to lose. So they've got to really get close and do the personal local issues that will count. And
scale of 1 to 5 on Biden, 5 being great job, 1 being disastrous. Where are you putting him with his couple of years right now? Quickly,
I'm against the grain. I look at this very closely. I'm a fan. I think Biden.
What?
Given the circumstances.
Come on, man.
I know. I'm the only person saying this. Given the circumstances, I think he's done a remarkable job.
Oh my God!
We've got inflation. We've got a war.
Oh yeah, great job, Joe. Great job. I mean, I wish I had more time with you. We'll get you back, David, and we'll talk more about your thoughts on why Biden's doing such a great job. But I know you've got other interviews to do this morning, and we've got to get rolling here. But thank you, David, for being with me. I appreciate you. Remember, the Democratic Party there, carrying the water for Joe Biden there.
Bring on spring and spruce up your kitchen with a new range or built-in wall oven from LG and Lowe's. These are no ordinary ovens either. They're loaded with options such as convection, air fry, and turbo cook. Plus, LG's exclusive InstaView feature on select models. You can even control your oven with an app. Upgrade your kitchen to LG. Shop in-store or online at Lowe's.com. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. U.S. only.